All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's virtual program from St. Louis County Library, Pride Month Book Picks. We're very excited to have you celebrating Pride Month with us. It is also Adult Summer Reading Club time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the program. But really excited to have you here today. Okay, and before we get started with the presentation part, just a little bit of housekeeping in case this is your first Zoom program with us. So tonight's program is in a webinar format, which means that your camera and microphone are not active. No one can see or hear you, but you should be able to see and hear us. If you can't, we suggest that you exit the webinar, move a little bit closer to your Wi-Fi router and try to rejoin. We are recording tonight's program and it will be posted on our YouTube channel within a couple of days. I'll send out a follow-up email when that recording is ready for viewing. So if you don't quite catch it all, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but you can feel free to put them into the chat as they occur to you during the presentation, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them as time allows at the end. So I am Sarah. I'm an adult services librarian here at St. Louis County Library, and I specialize in readers advisory, which is like matchmaking between books and readers. And so I am your host this evening, and tonight's presenters are Kelsey, Ryder, Kat, and Harry, and we're really excited to have them with us. So all of tonight's titles that we're talking about are available through our catalog in either print or e-media. And so, yeah, I did send out a flyer earlier this afternoon that has all of the books that we're talking about. And when you click on the cover of the title, it'll take you to our catalog to place a hold. If you didn't get that, no worries. I will attach it again to the follow-up email that I sent out to everyone that registered once the video link is ready to go on YouTube. But with that, we will go ahead and get started with Kelsey. So go ahead and take it away, Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm a LA at SLCL. And my first book I picked was actually one we just did for my book club. It's called Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg. So I've actually read this book twice this year, just because I really loved it and have been finding new details each time I read it. The story follows Bernie and Leah as they travel around rural Pennsylvania, taking photos and writing. Their story is told actually from the point of view of another woman, Anne Baxter, who's kind of omnipresent and just like knows things about them. But she is actually working through the loss of her partner, who is unnamed and just referred to as the housemate throughout the story. Um, but the characters are really interesting to read about, and there's quite a bit of character development throughout the story. The Bernie struggles with the fact that she is a artist who is no longer doing photography because of the fallout of her mentor, who had allegations of being inappropriate with his students, and she's dealing with that. And he passes at the beginning of the book, which is why they start this road trip traveling, and she is in his will, and she has to basically clear out his photographs and negatives. So it's kind of one of the, it touches on that a little bit. So just as a warning, Leah is going through a lot with a unsatisfying job, a relationship that's on the rocks, and she pairs up with uh, Bernie just as a writer. She's like, I need the spark. And so they go out. And the story is actually based around a real life photographer and writer who were partners, Bernice Abbott and Elizabeth McCausland. They actually had an exhibit in the, I think it was the 1930s, called Changing New York. And it was heavily edited when it was released because it was very queer and showed different parts of New York that people at the time really didn't want to hear about. So that book is actually available. There is a book about that, and the um, unaltered version of their art. I just got it through our Mobius, which if you haven't used, they're wonderful. Our ILL department is amazing. But it's called Documentary in Dispute, and I'm very excited to read that coming up. And my next book is The Prospects by Katie Hoffman. And this is actually one of the first sports romances I've ever read. They're not a big thing for me, but this one was just so cute, and it's an own voices story. It follows Gene, who is a young baseball player who is transgender. He is the first transgender player in the minor leagues, and he dreams of making it to the to the major leagues. And it's a rivals to teammates to lover story as Gene is joined on his team by Lewis, and they can't stand each other at the beginning, and it just develops into a really cute story. But I love this book. The side characters are all wonderful. Gene's roommate is amazing. I love him, and it just really focuses on like found family and finding your place, all while still having a touch of hope of like maybe Gene will make it to the major leagues. Um, so first sports romance I've ever read, and it's adorable. I cannot wait to see what KT Hoffman writes yet next, because if they're all this cute, I want more. I hope maybe they write another one about hockey because I'm a huge Blues fan. So that'd be really fun. Um, yeah, my next one is someone you can build a nest in, which is more typical what I read, which is queer horror. This one is fantastic. It's about Shasheshan, who is a shape shifting monster who she gets basically chased out of her lair while she's hibernating because of monster hunters, and they literally chase her off a cliff. And she gets rescued by this really sweet girl named Homily, and it's about finding your place and finding acceptance. So Shasheshan doesn't really understand the human concept of love, but slowly starts falling in love with Homily. Um, there's a ton of body horror in it, so it's a really sweet story covered with so much horror. Shasheshan has a bear trap as a mouth. I won't give too many details, but it's fantastic. It's creepy. There's like what's really the big bad, all while still having this really sweet story. Um, so I loved it. It's part horror, part monster, part fantasy, part romance. It's got a little bit of everything for everybody in it. So my next one is my only nonfiction pick this year, which is Real Queer America: LGBT Stories from Red States. It was written in 2017, which was interesting because it's one of those things where it was like, oh, right after the first Trump administration, and so now we're going into the second one, and it's interesting to see how what has changed and what has not changed from that point. Um, so it follows, or I shouldn't say it follows. It is written by Samantha Allen, who is a transgender woman, and it's her and her friend traveling. I think they do 6 red states. It's Utah. I wrote this down because I would forget. Utah, Indiana, Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Georgia. So this is another one my book club read, and it's adorable. Or not adorable. It has adorable moments because they meet a lot of people and listen to their stories. My favorite is actually when they're in Utah and there is a pride house across from the Mormon temple. And it's really amazing to see that even in a part of the country that is so conservative, all these parents want is for their kids to be happy and to be safe. And it really struck home for me. So I would love for her to do this again and maybe visit like Missouri, or other nearby city or states. I can't talk tonight, like Kansas. And we did look up a lot of the places that she visited. Most of them are still open. There was only like one or two in the books that she mentions that aren't. Um, and it's just a really, really touching book to see that no matter where you are in the country, there are people who will support you and love you, and you can find community anywhere. So, yeah. My next book is another fantasy one. The Women Could Fly is fantastic. It's a little bit Handmaid's Tale meets fantasy. It's like, what if the Salem witch trials never ended and we're still dealing with that today? So the main character is a 28-year-old woman. She is bisexual and lives in a society that if women are not married by 30, they have to register and basically be monitored by the government. And they get registered as witches, but there hasn't really been proof that witches even exist anymore. They're so called witches, but they're just single older women. Uh, which is really kind of like, okay, well, if there hasn't been proof of witchcraft, why are women still getting treated as witches? Uh, so Jo's her name, and she's very interesting. She's got when she was a teenager, her mother went missing, and she was presumed to be a witch or murdered, and so there's all these questions about what happened to her mom, and she receives a mysterious summons basically from her mother's lawyer after she's declared dead, basically being like, you have to go to this island to inherit this money, maybe you'll get answers about your mom. And I won't give any other details about that, but it's fantastic. And Megan Giddings does a amazing job creating a realistic dystopian world that still has fantasy elements to it. Because even if the witches aren't real, they feel it feels real. And so it really explores the relationship between women and daughters and mothers. So it's beautiful in a different way than a lot of the other books on my list. And my final selection is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, which is my only YA pick, and I adore this book. I have read it so many times. It follows Yadriel, who is a young transgender brujo in a very traditional family, and his family is tasked with basically sheltering spirits and guiding them. Everybody pretty much is a witch or a brujo or bruja, even if their magic varies. So it deals with him being accepted by his family for being a brujo and to be given the rights that every young man in their family has because the magic between men and women is so drastically different in their family. And the other main character is Julian, who is a classmate whose spirit shows up, and it's part mystery trying to figure out what happened. He has no memory of how he ended up being a spirit and, where his body is, if he's dead, what happened. So there's a lot of that, and it touches on aspects of found family and acceptance within your own biological family. And the sequel comes out in September, so I'm very excited. I can't wait. It's been delayed for a year, so the fact that it's finally here, I'm so excited. But that is my last pick for the night. Sorry if I talk too fast, but I'm gonna pass it over to Ryder. So
Hi, everyone. Thanks for starting off, Kelsey. Those all sound really awesome. My name is Ryder. I'm also a library associate at the county library. And my first pick is The Jasmine Throne, which was written by Tasha Suri. This was released in 2021, but I did not read it until last year. It is one of my favorite things I read all of last year. And it's actually the first installment of a trilogy series. So if you're looking for something in a nice, good group of three, it is a start of that. It is fantasy fiction. It's received many awards. I believe World Fantasy Award as well as the Hugo Award. But really, the most important thing is if you're wondering what it would be like to be caught in the fight for revolution in a magical world inspired by and in dedication to Indian epics with lesbians leading the way, then this is the book that you absolutely need to read. The magic is beautifully designed, the characters are really complex, and I often was confused on who I could trust, revealing the ambiguity of innocence in those involved in maintaining and controlling an empire or trying to overtake one. The main romance in this novel centers around two women, Malini and Priya, who, similar to the previous suggestion on the prospects, kind of become unwillingly involved with one another, and really crucial to one another's destiny. As someone who I'm not a really big fan of romance, but this book does it really, really well. It's really just kind of one piece to a really complex world the author creates, that although the romance is very important, it's definitely slow burn and it does not drive the story at all by itself. The chapters also alternate between different characters' points of view, and some of those characters come in with little to no introduction. So it's kind of a fun as a rare experience because you get to dig around and find out who people are, why they may be important to the story, and oftentimes you don't know until conflict arises and hijinks ensue. But yeah, it's really great. The magic really kind of introduces some new ideas and approaches to family and community. And it is somewhat happy, but it's also a complicated ending. It begins a trilogy, so just bear in mind that you'll be left wanting more. It is quite a long book. It is about 576 pages, and it definitely requires some investment to kind of get into the world and the characters and its inner workings, but the payoff is 100% worth it. I cannot suggest it even more, especially for my fantasy readers. So yeah. And then my next pick is quite a different tone, also fiction. But this is a 1985 coming of age novel written by Jeanette Winterson. It's called Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. And kind of its kind of purpose or kind of story is essentially introducing the idea of, if you kind of lived your whole life being told there's only one option for sweetness, then sooner or later what you consider to be sweet is really just a misnomer for being comfortable, and not actually experiencing pleasure and enjoyment in your life. It centers the coming of age of a young lesbian from an English Pentecostal community, and through biblical allegory that proceeds in each of the chapters as if one was moving through the Old and New Testament. It also contains a really easygoing writing style. So I would even suggest this book for young adults or even lower reading level, but still super engaging content. It's a very fitting read into the perspective of growing up queer and specifically lesbian in a highly religious and conservative Christian environment. One that I think many people can probably relate to, living in Missouri and in the Midwest and in the South where I grew up. It is a quick read as well. It's only 192 pages, and the structure and storytelling are just so easy, breezy, beautiful, wonderful cover girl. And it's got a really melancholy ending, but it ties up really well. So I really, really like this book. Yeah. And then my third pick is The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi. This is a bit more somber novel compared to the others that I have that are fiction in my recommendations, but very powerful. It explores themes of homosexuality and trans identity in Nigeria. Also kind of similar coming of age. That's kind of my area of interest in fantasy. It's a coming of age, a coming out, and also kind of turns these storylines on their heads because we're kind of looking at them through a not Western context. And it really brings into question what it means for death to happen to a queer person and kind of the different ways that we might experience death, of one's spirit, of one's body, of one's perceived and assumed identity in context to their environment, and what they might be able to say if they were here now. The narrative is very nonlinear. It also has a lot of magical realism and very, very vivid storytelling. We meet many versions of this protagonist named Vivek through time and also through those closest to them up until their very last moments. It is a medium length novel. It's about 248 pages, and it does discuss topics and themes on homophobia, transphobia, suicidal ideation, abuse, and assault. So just keep that in mind as you prepare to read this book. But really, Emezi's command of language and metaphor, particularly in bringing the dissonance of kind of experiencing self-love through one's gender dysphoria to life, I don't really know how the adjectives to describe it. You just have to read it and then you'll understand. The ending is, as you can likely guess by the title, a sad resolution to a mystery that really left me in a puddle of tears that was emblazoned by the content leading up to it, even though I knew what was going to happen, but I really didn't know what was going on. And I think that is a really powerful way to tell that story. So this is definitely for you if you're looking for trans, non-binary, and or Nigerian-owned voices stories. So, and on to the next one. This is The Stars Too Fondly. This was my very first space opera that I ever read. It is a sapphic space opera set during the late 2060s, following a group of 20-somethings who break into a spaceship that was supposed to save humanity about 15 years before, but that went wrong, didn't go as planned, and now the group is accidentally following in their footsteps and find themselves on course to a planet by accident. And this was released in 2025. It is also, if you're lucky, one of the books you will find if you go and register for Adult Summer Reading Club at the library. Plug for Summer Reading Club, adults can qualify. I caught my eye immediately. I was like, I have to read this book, and now it's on my recommendations. So the 20-somethings are on this spaceship and they are being piloted around by a hologram named Billy, who just so happens, unsurprisingly, to hit it off with our central protagonist, Cleo, who's both an engineer and, like many of the crew, dreamed of being an astronaut until she accidentally became one. Mysteries abound regarding the scientific potential of dark matter, traveling the galaxy, and mixed confusing signals from the ship and between its passengers. The Stars Too Fondly is essentially like The Martian and Arrival were mixed together, and they were made by Sapphics, with healthy doses of realism, humor, and hope for how to build a better world without ruining another. It runs at 336 pages, a medium length read, and it's quite a happy book. Okay. My next book recommendation is the only nonfiction that I'm recommending this month. And it is a collection of works by Audre Lorde, a self-described Black lesbian, mother, warrior, and poet. Audre Lorde is an unforgettable voice in 20th century literature and one of the first to center the experience of Black queer women and specifically lesbians. This collection was sort of trimmed down and created by Roxane Gay, who is also the author of Bad Feminist, if you've ever heard of that book as well. Just kind of overview is that the collection includes 12 essays and over 60 poems. And if you've ever kind of wanted to begin a journey into her work, I think this collection is one of many great starts because it introduces a lot of the landmark essays that often, get get pulled out of context poetry, as well as some of her lesser known prose works. My favorite section, which is from a longer excerpt from the Cancer Journals, is Lord at Her Most Personal. And this is in the prose section, writing as she undergoes treatment for the disease that would eventually lead to her transition. Lord, like many great authors, is often cherry picked, and her quotes are very highly quotable, but often it's hard to kind of see them in their fullness in dialogue with a lot of the other things. She was just very prolific. So although this is a recommendation for this kind of single collection, I kind of hope that it would then kind of let you experience some of the different genre ventures that she took throughout her life. And it's really great for someone who also enjoys kind of understanding the why behind the words. You get some anecdotes and sidebars from Roxanne that are really fabulous. It's 384 pages long, so pretty long, but it can also be read in whatever way you want. If you're feeling poetry, if you're feeling prose, if you want like a storyline, like it's, you can kind of take it as you will, which is also really awesome. So yeah. And then my final book is Harriet Tubman Live in Concert by Bob the Drag Queen. And yes, the cover of that is an image of Harriet Tubman's hands with a microphone. This book is a fiction novel. It is set post the COVID-19 pandemic. And what's happening is essentially historical figures and celebrities suddenly start coming back to life. And Darnell, who is our central protagonist, is a hip hop producer who stepped away from the scene after being outed on live television. But he is invited to produce and lead Harriet Tubman's team in writing and staging a hip hop musical inspired by her life. And if that premise alone like doesn't immediately pique your interest, there are 2 songs written throughout this book that are also available online. And the original audiobook is also read by Bob the Drag Queen themselves. And the story is also a pretty quick read. It's only 240 pages. So I personally don't know what could be better. I think you should read this like now. Harriet Tubman is kind of rewritten into this kind of like role model for a modern gay Black man who's working in an industry that is really rife with homophobia and like toxic masculinity culture. And that relationship really becomes a really cool way to kind of reckon with this kind of like history of hip hop and like the idea of like freedom and expression and kind of where that comes from, and shifting it and being able to do it in a contemporary hip hop scene. Interspersed throughout the narrative as well, you get kind of some historical tidbits that Bob researched and documented that kind of shed light not just on her work, but also many of the people that she worked with to free African Americans from bondage. And that was some really cool, like historical fiction elements to it as well. These moments of storytelling combined with the process of creating music from lived experience with Darnell showcase the heart and community building that's possible through hip hop's creative process really, really well. And I think this is a really healing novel. It's got a generous dash of humor. It's written by a drag artist, so I don't know what wouldn't. And it leaves you ready to just say goodbye to Hamilton if you haven't already, and just like leave that soundtrack behind for something of a very different tune entirely. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and I look forward to your questions, and I'll be passing it over to Kat.
You writer. I love Audre Lorde. We've done some of her poetry for my poetry discussion before, and she is fantastic. My first pick is Spear by Nicola Griffith. Spear is a gender-bent and sapphic retelling of the Percival story from Arthurian myth. In this version of the story, we follow Parator as she grows up in isolation with her unbalanced mother, not knowing her origins or name until one day, while roaming the wilderness, she runs across knights from King Arturus's court. Ignoring her mother's pleas for her to stay, Parator feels the call of destiny and leaves home, disguising herself as a man in hopes of joining Arturus's company. We meet many characters and legends from Arthurian myth in this one, including Nimue and Lancelot. There's the Holy Grail. quest that happens. This is a beautiful story about destiny, the lives we choose, and the lives that are chosen for us. It is also really nice to read a book that can create adversity for characters outside of their queerness, allowing the sapphic romances to have like non-oppression related relationship woes. I also really enjoyed this take on the Lancelot and Guinevere's story. It's pretty unique and kind of fun, I think. Nicola Griffith reads the audiobook, and it's a treat to listen to her read the story, especially to get the actual pronunciation of all of the character names because they are Welsh, and I'm not very familiar with that language, and it can often be difficult to pronounce. So there's some really fun names in there. And this book is for anyone who loves retellings, especially from a feminine perspective. And my next book is Out of the Drowning Deep by A.C. Wise. A.C. Wise. This little novella is stuffed to the brim with cool stuff. It has a little bit of everything. Biblically accurate angels, noir detectives, ancient obsolete automatons, and eldritch horror nuns. The story begins in a far distant future when the Pope arrives at a once famous monastery now run by the aforementioned automaton. He's here to announce that religion is now abolished. Except he doesn't get to do that. He is instead found murdered in his locked room, and it is up to our automaton and caretaker to find the killer with the help of an angel called Angel and a private detective who is running away from a past he cannot or will not remember. They must work together to solve the mystery before the terrifying Sisters of the Drowned Deep rise up to punish all the monastery's residents for their supposed crime. This book asks what a universe would look like if everyone knew for certain all gods were real and humans could create or manifest them by belief and faith alone. While there are moments of brevity, this novella is mostly dark in tone, with themes of childhood trauma, lost purpose, and inevitable change explored by each of our main characters. I really recommend this book for fans of complex characters and strange, dark tales that can sometimes be a little confusing. And my third pick is Less by Andrew Greer. This is a bit different than some of the other books on my list. This is just straight fiction. This also won a Pulitzer Prize. Arthur Less is a 49-year-old gay writer of middling success from San Francisco. Known primarily for having once been in a relationship with an older Pulitzer Prize winning poet, now, rather than attend the wedding of his most recent and now former lover, Freddie, and in dread of his 50th birthday, he has planned a trip around the world as an escape from these and other problems. Les is a satirical, bumbling character, but his earnestness is so charming that I can't help loving him. You can tell that the narrator has great affection for him and all his flaws, and this makes Les such an endearing character for the reader. His world tour is a comedy of errors and faux pas that really lend to the satirical nature of the novel. And I just wanted to protect this little guy at all costs. I think the youths would call him Baby Girl. I also love how this book holds up the measuring stick Les has used to gauge his success in life and romance, and asks if that ideal really matters or should even exist in the first place. This novel gives me the warm fuzzies, and I recommend it to anyone who really enjoys satire and flawed but lovable characters. Uh, Next, I have The Queen's English by Chloe O. Davis. This is the part where I sneak a dictionary into my book recommendations. I am a big fan of reference materials, especially those that gather information that has formerly been considered taboo or unimportant or historically censored. The Queen's English is a comprehensive guide to modern gay slang, queer theory terms, and playful colloquialisms that have defined and celebrated LGBTQIA plus culture. This modern dictionary provides an in-depth look at queer language, from terms influenced by celebrated lesbian poet Sappho and from New York's underground queer ball culture in the 1980s to today's celebration of RuPaul's Drag Race. This is a fantastic book if you to get you started on queer history or simply broaden your understanding of the letters in the LGBTQ plus. It has full color pages, and almost every page is illustrated. What I love about this book is the context provided for all of the terms, not only telling you the meaning, but also the source and often a bit of historical context. I think that a reference book that deals factually and practically with its content is incredibly important, especially this topic and especially now. Given the times that we are currently in, and I highly recommend it. And then next, I have Even Though I Knew the End by P.L. Polk. I loved this book. I had such a good time reading it. It is also a noir detective story where we have a sapphic romance. There are demons and angels and contracts. I really love any novel that spends some time like dealing with like noir detective sort of lingo. And this one is just full of it. Um, I love a book that lets another dame call another dame a dame. And it is both melancholy and very sweet, with the setting being in sort of the just pre-World War II alternate Earth era, with secret underground lesbian bars and sorcery and stuff like that. It sort of takes place in Chicago. This is for fans of anyone who likes a noir or sort of a detective story. And then last is Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This story follows Michael. He is a mixed-race gay teen growing up in London. All his life, he's navigated what it means to be Greek Cypriot and Jamaican, but never feeling enough of either to belong. As he gets older, Michael's coming out is the only the start of learning who he is and where he fits in. This novel is told in verse, and that really grounds the story. It's not shy about the issues Michael faces growing up with a single mother and trying to figure out who he is and what community he belongs with. This novel explores what it's like to be a young gay black man in modern times and follows Michael's life from childhood to college, where he is first introduced to drag and his persona of the Black Flamingo. If you have never read a novel in verse before, this is a great place to start. This is another book where the audiobook is read by the author. I'm always a fan of listening to poetry being read aloud, and you can really feel the author's connection to the character here, as this story reflects much of Dean Atta's own life in the telling. This book won a Stonewall Book Award and is great for anyone who would like poetry and coming of age stories. And with that, I'm going to pass you off to Harry.
Hey, Harry, I see that your microphone is turned on, but we can't hear you. Can you try turning it off and on again? Yeah, we still can't hear you or see you. Oh, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Um, hmm.
I,
Oh, wait, there we go.
you can hear me?
We can hear you now. We thought we had resolved this audio problem and it's
It's like,
back. Thank you
all right,
everyone for
well,
your patience. All right,
I
go
will,
ahead.
I will get through my picks then. My first book, The Three Lives of Kate K, it's a debut. You have a best-selling author who has been living with an assumed identity, and she writes her tell-all memoir discussing her three names that she's used in her life. So you have alternating chapters with the author and then people who have known her by these different identities. It's a character-driven novel described as a heart-wrenching queer love story combined with a coming-of-age journey. I really enjoyed this book. Some critics are saying it's better than The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I almost would say I agree, although they're both great books. My second book is The Last Hour Between Worlds. It's a fantasy, it's a romantasy book, but it's not a romantasy like the ones that you see on TikTok. In this one, star investigator Kimbrel, who is a hound, in other words, someone who finds missing people, teams up with her nemesis, cat burglar Rika, to find missing people who are in layered alternate realities. But Kimbrel wants to be with her newborn. Kimbrel's non-binary, wants to be with her newborn. And then what's this friction, possibly frenemy relationship with Rika? Well, we have an emotional and loving romance in this book, which I appreciate. I mean, I'm all for romance, but if you read a lot of romantasy, some of it is over the top. That's not this book. It's really well done. My third book is The In-Between Bookstore. Now, in this book, we have Darby, a trans man living in New York City, who goes back to small town Illinois where he grew up, and he enters a bookstore and is taken back to his pre-transition self. So present day Darby gets to observe his pre-transition self as well as the way that he interacted with his friends pre-transition. That could be kind of alarming, I think, for many of us who would maybe not want to go back to how we were when we were younger and observe the present day us observing the previous day us. So the issue is, can we change the past? And if we could, would we do it? It's actually a feel good and emotional read, and it's very enjoyable, written by a trans author. My next book is Dead in the Frame, which is described as a series, it's number 5 in a series of what are called deliciously queer, female-led mysteries. Now, this one is number 5 in the series, and I picked it for a reason. It can be read as a standalone. It's a historical mystery set in 1947 New York City. You have Lillian Pentecost and Willa Jean Parker, who are private investigators. Pentecost is under arrest at the outset of the book for the murder of a wealthy financier. Parker has to clear her name. It's an excellent, twisty mystery. The book portrays queer life in New York in the 1940s and reminds us that trans people have always existed. There is a trans character who is persecuted in the book, but I will say that everything wraps up, but it's an excellent mystery. If you like historic mysteries, it's a very excellent series. My next book is Mothers and Sons. Now, here we have a gay immigration attorney in New York City who confronts a 20-year-old secret that splits him from his lesbian mother, who runs a women's retreat center. So, what is the secret? Well, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that it's set in Obama era Manhattan, and Peter, the lawyer, takes the case of defending a young man who is fleeing homophobic persecution in his native Albania. Peter has to confront the rupture that has made him incapable of sustaining a relationship. So, will he be able to have a meaningful relationship by the end of the book? And will he be able to mend fences with his mother? You have to read the book to find out, but it's very well done. Right, I'm not going to leave you on a down note. I want to end with a positive book. And so my last book is Flirting Lessons by Jasmine Guillory. This is her first queer romance. We have uptight Avery, who is bisexual and has just broken up a relationship. She wants to explore her lesbian side, so she engages Taylor, who is considered the expert rake flirting coach in Napa Valley. Now, both of these women have personal issues. Avery's uptight, very much wants to follow the book, so she's asking Taylor for lessons. And Taylor, on the other hand, sees all of her friends settling down, and Taylor is just jumping from one relationship to another. And can she actually settle down? So what tropes do we have in this romance? We have opposites attract, friends to lovers. We have an open and honest relationship, which I appreciate. We have banter between the main characters. We have lots of queer side characters who are quite entertaining, alternating points of view. And for those of us who like romance books, we have an open door, spicy romance. So I say, sign me up. Jasmine Guillory is a favorite author. This is her first queer rom-com, and I think that you would enjoy it. I will turn it back over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you, Harry. All right. So you got a lot of really great picks tonight, but if you would like more books, you can try out our personalized reading service. This is a form you can fill out on the website where you tell us what you like or what you don't like, and we will create a list of 5 titles just for you and send them to you. You can find this form under the Books, e-Media, and More section of our website. And then, as I mentioned, and a couple of our presenters mentioned, we are in the middle of Adult Summer Reading Club. Summer Reading Club, it's not just for kids, adults can do it too. When you sign up, you get a free book right away. And each minute of reading earns you a point, and each library event that you attend, you can earn 20 points. So you can get 20 points just for attending tonight's program. It's got some great prizes, including an I Love My Library baseball cap if you complete it. So it's a great time, and I hope that you sign up and read a lot this summer. And if you enjoyed tonight's program, we have another one of these book talk programs where we highlight titles. Coming up next month, we're doing Sensational Summer Reads on Thursday, July 17th. This one's a bit of a broader topic, so just books that are great to read in the summertime and beyond, so there should be something for everyone. So we hope you'll join us at that. And then also, we have some literary themed yoga classes at various times and locations throughout the library system. But in this class, we'll be exploring kind of the energy of the chakras through poetry and color. I'll have colored lights. So I hope that you can join us at one of those, and you can find out more about that and other events we have on our events calendar. And with that, we will go to some questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and put us in the gallery mode. And let's see here. I think we have a few. If you have a question, please go ahead and put it into the chat box and we will answer some questions as time allows. Yeah, someone asked about the link to the YouTube video. Yes. So when we're recording tonight's presentation and when it's ready to put up, ready to view on YouTube, I will send out a follow-up email with the link. So we do that usually within 3 business days. It's often up there within a day. So hopefully tomorrow or the next day you'll get the link. We had a couple of questions about a few of the books that are whether they're available only in print versus on Libby or Hoopla. And yeah, unfortunately, not everything is available in e-format. So the Queen's English is only available in print, but we do have quite a number of copies of it. I think we have like 6 or 7 copies of it. So you can got a copy of it in print. And yeah, someone mentioned that the prospects our license is already expired. So some people don't know this about ebooks, but we're actually buying a license, and most of the licenses work by either buying a certain amount of time, like a year or 2 years, or the number of checkouts. So it's quite possible that this one we ran through our checkouts really fast. There is already a hold on that title, so that should trigger our selectors to purchase it again if they can. But feel free to fill out the suggest a purchase form, and that will let them know that there are people that are still interested in this title and we can rebuy the license if it's available to us. So, but it is available in print again. I mean, I know print's not, I mean, you know, some people really like ebooks, but yes, you can get these in print too. All right, let's see, any other questions in here? A lot of really nice thank yous and people saying they put some stuff on their list. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, let's see. Well, while we wait, in case someone is typing their question in, are any of you reading anything good right now that you'd want to talk about really quickly?
I literally just finished before we started Murder by Memory. This is another sapphic detective sci-fi story. And I blame Harry for this because last year he recommended one in the panel, and now that's apparently all I read. So
That's fine. I'm great. That's wonderful.
I'm
it was
reading
fantastic.
I didn't know this genre existed, so I'll see you guys next year after I'm done reading everything that has ever been published in this genre. But right now I'm reading Queer Arrangements. It's about Billy Strayhorn and jazz composition and how that is inherently queer. It's not available, unfortunately, through the county library, so this is kind of also a plug for the city library system. So yeah, that's a really good book that I'm reading right now that is really good, especially if you like music history too.
I actually don't know if this is available through the library. It just came out, but my partner just picked up for me Of Monsters and Mainframes, which is a queer space retelling of the last voyage of the Demeter from Dracula. So space horror is like one of my favorite things. So I'm very excited.
Wow. I just finished Who Knew by Barry Diller. So Barry Diller, a well-known Hollywood mogul, uh, very wealthy. He's been married for years to Diane von Furstenberg, who is a model as well as fashion icon. And he now tells us that he was closeted gay, and he's in his 80s. He wants to tell us about why he was gay, and then what it was like growing up in Beverly Hills, and what's his marriage like with Diane von Furstenberg. So fascinating book. And who knew refers to who knew that he was gay, and also both, you could take that both ways. Who knew, and did they know, and did it make a difference? So interesting book.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to talk about a book for in Sensational Summer Reads called A Letter to the Luminous Deep, and I'm reading the sequel right now. But I don't know about the identity of the author, but the book does have quite a number of LGBTQ characters in it, including some portrayals of asexual and demisexual characters, which are not, as quite as common in a lot of literature. So, and they're both very heartwarming. So, if you want to hear me talk more about A Letter to the Luminous Deep, come to Sensational Summer Reads next month. But let's see, we have a couple of questions here. Oh, someone asked, what was the Space Dracula horror book called again? Which of you talked about that one?
It was me. I put it in the chat, but it's Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. So very excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Oh, someone asked about you said the suggested request form. So it could be two things that you're talking about. I'm not sure which ones you're talking about, but I'm going to go go to our library's website, and I'll show you where those two things might be, the two things you're talking about. So let me share my screen again. And I'll go to the library's website. So one thing we talked about was the personalized reading list. So if you're looking for that, that is under books, e-media, and more. And you can go to personalized reading. And this is the form where you can fill out, what you like and what you don't like. So you choose your level, and then fill out all the things you like and you don't like. And then we'll send you a list of 5 titles. We do have the personalized reading list for teens and kids too. So all the people in your life, any age, can get a personalized reading list. And then the other form I talked about was the suggest a purchase form. So that might be what you're talking about. If again, under the books, e-media, and more section, you'll see this link that says suggest a purchase. And if there is something that we don't have that you would like for us to have, you can fill out this form with as much information about it as you can, like the format, the author, the performer, etc., the title, all that kind of thing, and submit that form. And if it's something that our selectors think that would be good for our collection and that other people would be interested to as well, and also that we can get, because not everything is like in print anymore, but they will get it if they can, and if it's in our sort of collection development policies. So those are the 2 forms. So hopefully that is what you were looking for. Okay. And I would say, I don't know, have any of you filled out? I've filled out the suggest a purchase form a number of times, and they often will take you up on it. I know several of our selectors, and they say that they really appreciate getting submissions through the select a purchase form because I mean, they are very very well read people who like read all sorts of industry literature about books and that kind of thing. But uh, they can't know about everything. And also there are some things that it's like, is there going to be enough interest in us for us to spend, our budget and our tax dollars on that? And so if it's not one of the big authors, they want to hear from you all that it's a book that you want, before they purchase it, so that we can use our tax dollars wisely. And so they really appreciate the suggested purchase form. Yeah, someone Kelsey said that you've suggested a lot of queer horror books, and yeah, they like the unusual stuff, and they want to see whether we're interested. So okay, good. Let's see. We're almost coming up on 7:30, but if anyone has any last questions. Okay. Well, then I think we'll go ahead and end there. Again, thank you so much to the presenters tonight for taking time out of your normal duties to present with us. We really, really appreciate it. And to all of you watching out there, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a lovely Pride Month. We still have quite a number of Pride-related programs going on, and we also hope that you join Summer Reading Club. And I hope that I see you next month at Sensational Summer Reads. So everyone have a great evening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.